The panic attack didn't start with weakness. It started with silence. A suffocating, crushing silence inside a glass tower overlooking Manhattan, where a man worth hundreds of millions suddenly couldn't breathe. Ethan Caldwell, one of the most powerful CEOs in the United States, stood frozen in his private office as the city pulsed below him, his heart racing like it was trying to escape his chest. The world saw him as untouchable. Sharp suit, flawless reputation, relentless success. But in that moment, none of it mattered. His vision blurred, his hands trembled, and for the first time in his life, Ethan Caldwell was terrified of his own mind. If you believe that kindness still exists in this world, that second chances can come from the most unexpected people, and that even the strongest hearts sometimes need saving, take a moment right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to this channel. Your support helps stories like this reach the hearts that need them most. Ethan had built his empire brick by brick, deal by deal, sacrifice by sacrifice. Raised in Ohio by parents who believed struggle built character, he learned early that rest was weakness and emotions were distractions. By 42, he had everything: luxury penthouses, private jets, headlines praising his brilliance. But no one ever talked about the nights he slept in his office, or the way his chest tightened every time he closed his eyes. The panic attacks had been whispering to him for months, hiding behind stress and caffeine, until this one exploded without warning. The board meeting was minutes away, the biggest merger of his career on the line, and Ethan couldn't even stand without feeling like the room was collapsing. Somehow, through sheer instinct, he escaped the building and staggered into the street. The noise of New York swallowed him whole, horns blaring, people rushing, life moving too fast. He wandered into a small public park tucked between towering buildings, a place he had passed 1,000 times without noticing. His knees gave out, and he sat on a bench, gripping the edge as if it were the only thing keeping him alive. His breath came in shallow gasps, his thoughts spiraling into worst-case futures where he lost everything he had worked for, where his body finally betrayed him in public, where power meant nothing. That was when Michael Harris noticed him. Michael was a single father in his mid-30s, living in Brooklyn, working 2 jobs to support his 7-year-old son, Noah. That afternoon, Michael had taken a rare break from his delivery shift to sit in the park while Noah played nearby with a small toy car. Michael wasn't wealthy. His shoes were worn, his jacket frayed at the edges, and exhaustion lived permanently in his eyes. But what he lacked in money, he carried in patience and empathy, forged through years of loss. His wife, Emily, had passed away from cancer 4 years earlier, leaving him to raise Noah alone. Grief had reshaped him, softened him, taught him how fragile life really was. Michael recognized the signs immediately, not from textbooks or seminars, but from lived experience. After Emily died, panic attacks had visited him like uninvited ghosts, stealing his breath in grocery store aisles and subway platforms. He saw the same fear now etched across Ethan's face, even though he didn't know the man's name or status. All he saw was a human being in pain. Without hesitation, Michael moved closer, keeping his presence calm and unthreatening. He didn't crowd him or demand attention. He simply sat nearby, grounded, steady, like an anchor in a storm. Slowly, Michael began guiding Ethan back to his breath, encouraging him through quiet, reassuring motions and steady pacing, reminding his body that it was safe, that the moment would pass. There were no speeches, no grand gestures, just patience, understanding, and the rare gift of presence. Minutes passed, then more. The city noise faded into the background as Ethan's breathing gradually slowed. The crushing pressure in his chest loosened its grip, replaced by exhaustion and disbelief. He leaned back against the bench, eyes closed, tears threatening to spill, not from sadness, but from relief. For the first time in years, someone had seen him not as a CEO, not as a brand, not as a weapon of success, but as a frightened man who needed help. As Ethan regained his composure, he noticed Noah watching from a few feet away, concern written on his young face. Michael gave his son a gentle smile, reassuring him without words. That simple exchange hit Ethan harder than any boardroom confrontation ever had. He realized then how long it had been since anyone had looked at him with genuine care, without expectation or fear. They stayed there for a while, the three of them sharing space in the quiet pocket of the park. Ethan learned that Michael worked tirelessly just to keep food on the table, that his days were long and his nights often lonely. Michael learned that Ethan carried the weight of thousands of employees, investors, and public scrutiny, all resting on his shoulders without mercy. Two lives from opposite ends of the social spectrum, intersecting at a moment neither of them could have planned. Ethan returned to his office that day, but he didn't walk into the boardroom. He canceled the meeting. The world didn't end. The company didn't collapse. Instead, something far more important shifted inside him. He scheduled therapy sessions, something he had always dismissed as unnecessary. He reduced his hours, started walking outside instead of living under fluorescent lights, and slowly began confronting the grief and fear he had buried beneath ambition. Weeks later, Ethan couldn't shake the memory of Michael and Noah. He found himself wondering how many people like Michael struggled silently while men like him chased profits without looking back. He ordered a quiet review of one of his company's logistics departments and discovered something that disturbed him deeply. Overworked employees, underpaid drivers, benefits cut to maximize margins. People like Michael were carrying the cost of his success. Ethan made changes, real ones. Wages increased, benefits were restored. Mental health support became standard across the company. And without publicity or press releases, Ethan ensured that Michael received a promotion opportunity, flexible hours, and a scholarship fund for Noah's future education. Not as charity, but as recognition of humanity. Their paths crossed again months later, this time intentionally. Ethan no longer wore the armor of invincibility. He spoke openly about mental health within his company, about vulnerability being a strength, not a liability. Michael stood in the audience during one of those talks. Noah beside him, proud and unaware of how deeply his father's quiet kindness had reshaped a powerful man's life. Ethan's panic attacks didn't vanish overnight. Healing was not a straight line, but now when fear crept in, he remembered that park bench, that steady presence, that reminder that breath returns if you give it time. He learned that leadership wasn't about control, it was about compassion. That success meant nothing if it cost you your soul. Michael, too, found healing in unexpected ways. Helping Ethan reminded him that his pain had purpose, that his journey through grief had equipped him to save someone else from drowning. Noah grew up watching his father model empathy, learning that strength wasn't loud or flashy, but quiet and brave. Before the story ends, take a moment and comment below. Do you believe one small act of kindness can change a life? We would love to hear your thoughts. As this story draws to a close, remember this. Sometimes the person who saves you won't look like a hero. They won't have power, money, or influence. They might be tired, grieving, or barely holding on themselves. But kindness doesn't need wealth to be powerful. It only needs presence. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that compassion still matters and that healing can come from the most unexpected places, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps keep stories like this alive, and maybe, just maybe, it helps someone breathe again.